let's chat about what's in my gig bag. Summertime here in the BVI and also some of the islands in the Caribbean means that it's time for emancipation festivals. So before we get to that and all the partying, let's just discuss it from a musical point of view in regards to my live performance setup. These are the things that I use on stage. So if you see me on stage, whether it's in the BVI or anywhere else, this is most likely what I'm using. Of course, the hub of everything is the MacBook Pro. I use this to run Ableton Live and Mainstage. I am running the MacBook Pro with the touch bar. I really love the touch bar. I don't use it for live performances, but when I'm in the studio using Logic Pro or sometimes when I'm editing in DaVinci Resolve, I do use the touch bar. It does have a lot of applications, so I hope Apple brings it back. Please give us that option. I know a lot of people don't use it, but I find it's very practical in professional software applications. Like I mentioned, on the MacBook Pro, I'm running Ableton Live and Mainstage. Whatever the latest version of Ableton Live is, that's the one I'm using. I can't keep up with the numbers, and it's kind of not really important or relevant. This is used to run samples, and depending on the show, I set it up differently, whether I'm running instrumentals, TV tracks, or full stems. Sometimes I'm just running it stereo out. Sometimes I would use an interface, an audio interface. The whole point of my setup is to be mobile, travel friendly. So when I was on the road with Mr. Killer, all my entire setup would be able to fit in a carry-on. That's the point. Also too, I always think about DJs, and sometimes I would swap with DJs. So a DJ would be playing, I come set up, and then we just switch cables and go. We don't have time to do like, that big break and the place is dead. I just want to be able to, the DJ stops and we go. In some instances, I try not to use an audio interface. I find that the more parts that you introduce, the more problems that you could have. So I try not to use an audio interface, but when I do, sometimes it's absolutely necessary. I have the Focusrite Scarlett, I have the big one. To me, when I ordered it, I thought it was smaller. It is a bit heavy, so it's not really travel friendly. That's the one thing in my setup that's not really travel friendly, but if I absolutely need it, then I would bring it. If I'm really separating tracks, then 9 channels, that's what I would use. But sometimes it's 5. The extra channel, the extra single channel would be for a metronome to send to the drummer or anybody who needs it. My preferred audio output method, however, is straight from the headphone jack out to double XLR. Back in the day, way back in the day, I used to use the straight instrument cable. One day I was in the studio with Jugu and he plugged in the same cable, the headphone out to the XLR, and the sound quality was way better. Since then, that's what I've been using. I prefer this because it's easier to set up and it introduces less potential faulty points. So, when I'm swapping with a DJ, we kind of using the same outputs. I bought Mainstage a very long time ago, maybe like 10 years ago, for $30 at that point in time. It still might be the same price, and that program has served me well. That's what I use to actually play keyboard, and the sounds in there are amazing. You get the sounds from Logic, and you could also use plugins. So I tend to use Reason because Reason is a rack that's filled with everything, but I also do have the Triton plugins, the Triton Extreme and the Triton Studio, along with other things. I did a bit of synthesis and sound design when I was in college at Berkeley. Most of the sounds I tend to use, I made. So these are specialty sounds for specific situations, and they're very versatile. So imagine I have all the sounds I need and more, and I could create more, and I spent $30 for Mainstage. That's pretty incredible. That's the best bargain you could ask for. The gig bag I use to house my stuff, it is a 49 key gig bag. It has straps. There are also pockets in the front. I also have a regular backpack to keep the MacBook Pro inside, along with anything else. Plus, you know, I do photography, videography as well, so those things go into there. Like I said, I'm trying to keep it as small and compact as possible. Now, the next important part is the Novation Launch Key MK4. I did have the MK2 before, and that lasted me for about 8 years. And the reason I got it is because it is good for controlling Ableton Live. Most of the times I'm performing, I am controlling Ableton Live as well as playing keyboards. So recently I upgraded to the Launch Key MK4. I usually use 49 keys because it's travel friendly, and like I said, this could fit in the overhead compartment when I'm traveling. It is a MIDI controller, so it doesn't have any sounds, but it does come with a lot of software. I don't think I've installed any because I have most of the stuff that I need. It is very solidly built compared to the MK2. Now, the MK2 went through a lot of things with me. I carried this all over the world to perform, and it's been through some tough times, and it survived for about 8 years. But the MK4 seems like it's even more solidly built. The keys feel different from the MK2, so it took me a while to get used to it. The MK2 had that light synth feel, but these keys, they're heavier, so it took me a while to get used to. Like I mentioned, the reason I got the Novation Launch Key series is because it's really good at controlling Ableton Live. It has saved me so many times. This is no exception with the MK4. In fact, they expanded on the functionality, so I don't even have to touch the computer most of the times when I'm performing. All of the knobs and faders and the pads feel better, and they feel sturdier. They also did infinite encoders, which means the knobs I could turn, just keep turning. That is pretty great, because if something like a value is at a certain point and I need to change something, I don't have to start over. They also expanded on the functionality for other DAWs. So I had to download a script for Logic, and basically I could control anything in Logic. It's like having a full mixing board in front of me with a keyboard built in. The pads are aftertouch sensitive. I don't really use that much, but they are aftertouch sensitive, if that means anything to you. However, the keys are not. When I'm purchasing gadgets, whether it's for music or personal use or lighting, cameras or anything, one of the things I look for is to see how it charges, because there are many times you have some sort of proprietary charging method, and after a while you lose the charger and that's the end of that device, or you have to order another charger for it. So I have to make sure that everything is USB-C. Like all my devices, the Novation Launch Key MK4 connects via USB-C. I do have to say it is a little bit heavier and bigger than the MK2, but it's not significantly so, nor is it an inconvenience. I love the colors on the pads and the buttons. This gives you visual feedback. For instance, if you're in Ableton Live and you have a red clip, then the pad would light red. This is very useful, so you're not depending on the computer screen. And also, so you don't have to depend on the keyboard's screen. Let's talk about that screen for a little bit. This is one of my biggest dislikes about the Novation Launch Key MK4. The screen is very tiny. So are the letters in the screen. The MK2 had a bigger and better screen. I don't know why they did this. It does, however, give you very accurate and useful feedback. So if you touch a knob or a fader or a pad or anything like that, you get really good feedback from it. But of course, you have to see it first on that tiny little screen. I believe humans could get used to anything, and you do get used to the screen. And with most MIDI controllers, it is plug and play, at least for things like Ableton Live and MainStage. I did have to download a script, like I mentioned, for Logic and other DAWs, but that was pretty simple to install. Along with that, I used the MIDI Plus SP2 sustain pedal. It is not the most grand and elaborate sustain pedal, but for me, a few years ago I had issues with sustain pedals where they would just stop working after a few use. No matter what I tried, I tried some of the most expensive, and eventually I got to this one. it just worked. I had one before and it worked for a few years, and now I just got this other one. I still have the other one that still works, so I have a duplicate of that pedal. One of the other cons for me, and this is a pretty big one because it could have dire consequences when you're performing live, is that the up and down buttons are far too close to the pads. So sometimes you can accidentally trigger or stop a clip in Ableton Live. You don't want that to happen in a live situation. I have kind of gotten used to it, but it still happens off and on. Also, similarly, the play button is far too close to the pads as well, so sometimes you could accidentally press the pads when you're going to press play. That's a simple fix, and I hope they deal with that in the next version where they move it slightly off from the pads. You don't want to accidentally press pads. How I mitigate that is I change the functions of the pads. So the bottom row, it just mutes a track. So if I accidentally presses it, it mutes the track and I could just unmute it. At first when I got it, it would stop a track, and that didn't work out well because I would be in the middle of the song and going to do something and I accidentally press a pad and the song would stop, and it's like, oh gosh, I kind of have to either start over or find a point where to come back in. Also, another con, which I just remembered, is that the pads, you know, when you're working with pads, you have to press them. These pads, you just touch them, so they're kind of touch sensitive. So you might accidentally brush up on a pad, and that would either trigger a clip or stop a clip. But like I said, I changed the functions of the pads, which you can do. There are many different functions depending on what you want to do. So I have them to mute. So if I accidentally press something, it just mutes a pad and then I could unmute it. Make it look like I'm doing a DJ style, you know, mute pull out or something like that. The menus, given the smaller screen, are a bit complicated. The good thing is you could just set it and leave it. Another issue I have is that there is the yellow box that highlights where you are, but when you're scrolling up or down, it moves very slow. So if I'm at the top of an Ableton page and I need to go to somewhere in the middle or bottom in a very long set, it takes me a long time to get there. If I need to get to a song quickly, then I would scroll down using the mouse, and eventually while we're doing the song, then I would use the down button or the up button and take my time and get there. It takes a long time. I don't know why they didn't do that faster, why they didn't make that faster, because if I'm at the top of a set and I need to get to somewhere closer to the bottom, at first when I got it, there would be silence. So I would be in one set, let's say I'm doing soca, which is lower down, and I need to go up, which is further up to the reggae. I would stop the song and then it's like, oh wow, it takes forever, and I'm just there scrolling and pressing. Just pressing, and it takes a while to get there. So then the singer would have to talk for a while. This should make it faster. So if I press and hold, it just moves faster. It's an excellent MIDI controller. I love it. It's just a few quirks I have to get used to, which I am getting used to. Let's move on to something else. I learned this one from guys like Kamau Georges and Dylan Vanterpool. When these guys show up to a gig, they show up with everything. Everything. Even though they might not need something, they still have it. I remember one time we were having a rehearsal with Kamau and there wasn't electricity. Kamau had enough power to supply the rehearsal. Yes, he worked with his own electricity. Now I'm not going to that extreme, but my idea is I want to be able to go to a gig and have everything that I need, or as much as possible. So I have my own in-ear monitors. I use the Behringer PowerPlay P1. It could be stereo. Most of the times I use it mono, but sometimes I do use it stereo. It sounds really good stereo. It sounds like I'm in a studio. It uses D batteries. Kind of harder to find, but you know, they're there. So when I find them, I do buy them in bulk. Along with the Behringer in-ear monitor pack, I also have in-ear monitors. The ones I'm using is Linsol KZ ZS10 Pro. These have excellent sound and they're really loud. I spent $40 for these. They're about, I think they were on sale when I got them, so 30 something. But I also upgraded the cable to a higher end cable, which I spent $20 on. That should give me better sound quality. I do have to honestly say I haven't noticed the difference, but let's say it has better sound quality. And then I replaced the ear tips with foam ear tips from Comply. I do love Comply ear tips. I have used them in my AirPods Pro. I didn't have the foam ear tips for a while. I used the ones that came with the in-ear monitors, and during our live performance, they would keep slipping out. Not bad, but it was enough to annoy me. I ordered the Comply foam tips. I think I spent about $20 for those, and that has solved all my problems. These are so good now, I use them in a studio context and use them to help me mix as well. I remember, and it still is applicable today, when in-ear monitors used to be super expensive. But now I spend $40 and they're excellent. I have no complaints. I have not even considered another pair of something else, a different brand or anything else. I just upgraded the cable and the foam tips and I'm ready to go. Now let's get to the things that I want to get. Most of these things tend to be minor. I do have duplicate of some of the things in case something goes wrong. For instance, the audio cable. If something goes wrong with one, then I have a next one, and the same thing with the pedal and other things like that. It's always good to have a backup. I do want to get an XLR cable for my in-ear monitor. Like I said, I want to be able to show up to a gig and have everything, no excuses. If I don't need it, then I don't need it, but at least I have it. One thing I simply must get is a smaller and lighter audio interface. Something that could support the 9 to 10 outputs, but it still should be travel friendly. That is the one thing I am not happy with in my bundle. It's not bad, it's really good, but it's more for studio use. And like I said, I need everything to be travel friendly. When I'm traveling with that audio interface, I have to pack it in my checked luggage, which is not good. That is not safe at all. I do also want to get the Behringer PowerPlay PM1. It is much smaller. They had it on sale for $8. I don't know why I didn't get it, but yes. I saw Tremaine, who's a bass player I play with all the time. He got one. And the reason I want to get it is because it doesn't use batteries. So in case I'm in a situation where I don't have batteries or something like that, I could still use an in-ear monitor. It is not as powerful, it's passive, not like the other one, which is active. It is not as powerful, but at least I would have it as a backup. And then the next thing I think I would add to this list is a guitar. I need a nice performance guitar. I've recently gotten back into playing guitar again. Some of the tracks I'm producing, I have been playing guitar on. I've been practicing a lot of flamenco and Spanish and classical guitar. I love a good classical guitar. So I want to reintegrate that into my live setup. When I was on the road with Sherwin Winchester, I used to play keyboard along with guitar, along with saxophone, soprano saxophone. I want to try to reintegrate the guitar, at least for some shows. Not every show, but for some shows, if I need to play guitar or if I feel a need to play guitar, then I would have the ability to. That's it for what's in my gig bag. Of course, I might add a few stuff to it, but I'm very content with where it's at. Now, going into this Bandman season, as I would call it, Bandman season is upon us. Bandman/musician. If you see me on stage or any recording or anything like that, most likely this is what I'm using. And that's just the musical side of the live performance. I want to film more of what we're doing on stage, maybe some behind the scenes. I might end up using my Ray-Ban Meta to do some live streaming, depending, or even this camera or anything I have. I'm still working that out in my head. I'm just trying to figure out the visual aspect of it. I always do have my kit on me, my filming kit. So let's see what I come up with. Follow the journey, and if I update anything, I will let you guys know.